Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen here on this Friday, June 7th, episode 83 of the Juice Box. Pretty interesting week overall in the world of pro wrestling. Quite the busy week for yours truly, as I've been doing a lot of other work here, helping fix some bugs with what we got going on with YouTube as we try to set that up going forward. Made a couple of appearances, got some interviews lined up, got a potential new piece of the Juice Box umbrella to be put forth. A lot of different things going on, as it were, here in the Juice Box world. Before we get into the week that was, and we'll also tackle some Ask Juice to close out the show here. As always, Juicy Steen on Twitter. Follow me there. Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podbean at juicysteen.podbean.com, and on Spotify. If you listen to it on Spotify or iTunes, give it a 5-star rating. That would really be beneficial to the show and its growth. Additionally, like I said, at Juicy Steen on YouTube, where you can listen to every RSS feed episode that's released. And additionally, we will be putting forth some video content as the year progresses. Again, still working on that, working with some collaborators in that realm, but we will absolutely be getting to further the brand slowly but surely, for sure. This week it was kind of, here and there. No PLE, no pay-per-view this week. Of course, next week we do have Clash the Castle in Glasgow, which should be quite the event. We will discuss the card as it is. 2 weeks after that, we, of course, have Forbidden Door, AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, with a little bit of CMLL and Stardom as well. Truly a global card. We will discuss a little bit of that card as well, but that'll be in a couple of weeks. Like I said, we'll do some Ask Juice to round out the show. A couple of things, though. So I did mention at some point going forward, so the Juice Box is its own entity, of course. It is its own brand. Within the Juice Box, however, there's multiple different facets to how this machine works, the cogs in the machine, if you will. Of course, the weekly Juice Box episodes that are in this RSS feed every single Friday, no matter what. However, we of course have our prediction shows for PLEs and pay-per-views that come forth a day before, whatever event that may be. Sometimes there's multiple a week. We also have the SIP series, which is the sit-down interview series with folks that have had some sort of interest or pro wrestling in their lives at one point or another, whether that was whenever they were younger, older, all the way through their lives, or maybe just for a blip. But we've got that as well. And I have a interview lined up coming in a few weeks. It will be airing. I think I'll be recording it within a week or so, hopefully, as things all go to plan. I will reveal more details of that interview going forward as well. But additionally, so with all those things, of course, we got the staple Triple Threat Theater with Josh Cross and Donnie. I absolutely have plans to expand Triple Threat Theater to outside of just Josh and Donnie, although they will absolutely be back for a Volume 5, assuming we get some topics and get us all together in a plan to make that happen. But there will be future Triple Threat Theaters that will not have them, and that will feature a few other new guests to the Juice Box. But, once you're a Juice Box guest once, you're a Juice Box guest for life. So that'll be a fun addition as well as we progress forward. Of course, there will be in the future, I'm not sure when this will take place, but the recording of some of these episodes could be happening sooner than later, and whenever I decide to kind of parlay them into the feed as I need to, again, once some other things are figured out, it'll be a lot easier for me to schedule those. I've got a couple of guys that I used to work with. I mean, I say work with, really back in 2007, 2008, even probably till 2009. There was a wrestling call-in show back in the day, and I used to call in weekly whenever I could get a chance to call on my landline to discuss wrestling with a couple of guys from the Minneapolis area. And one of those guys and one of his buddies who I have worked with as well, they will be coming forth with a little extra juice for the Juice Box, where it will be under the Juice Box umbrella, but it will have a little subheading name. It'll have a little bit of a different flavor. I will not be a part of every episode. In fact, I might not be a part of the first few episodes, but it's going to be their little side project, and I would, they pitched it to me. I was really thrilled to see that they wanted to do that, and they recorded the pilot. The pilot will, of course, eventually air once they get an episode or two, more of the actual show. I can lay out whenever I want to put those in the feed and of course release them out there to you guys to enjoy. But there are two guys that I really enjoyed discussing wrestling with, even 15 plus years ago, and they still love wrestling now. They've watched wrestling for quite a long time, and I'm looking forward to unveiling more details about that. I really don't want to spoil much, but it's just the Juice Box is evolving. It's branching out. We're throwing a lot more straws in the box, and we're just trying to grow the whole thing, getting everybody a chance to talk wrestling abroad and get to hear their flavor. And myself, the other night I was a part of a kind of a 4-person round table discussion in regards to analyzing the Vice Who Killed WCW documentary series, which is run by The Rock, Brian Gewirtz, $7 Productions on Vice, the same guys who did Dark Side of the Ring and the Territory show, kind of collaborated with The Rock and those guys to do a 4-part series detailing what or who killed WCW. And I was fortunate enough to be asked on a panel for Final Bell Media, which you can follow them on Twitter. I want to make sure I get the official link correct. It's at Final Bell Media on Twitter. So go follow those guys out. They will be putting out more content daily, weekly, of course. I'm not sure where I fit into the fray as of yet, but I was invited to do this WCW thing, and hopefully that will pan out with a couple more episodes in a few more weeks, and maybe I'll be integrated a little bit more. So that'll be really cool to see. But Drew Baydala, my friend Ticket Drew, as it were, is heading up Final Bell Media along with a friend of the show, Corey, and the one and only Ellis, who some of you may know as the guy who was pretty stunned after The Undertaker lost his streak at WrestleMania. So he as well. Those guys or kind of heading up this Final Bell Media, and they asked me on for this panel, and we had a hell of a discussion, upwards of 1.5 hours. We really dove deep into the WCW and who killed WCW documentary first part. I loved every second of it. I am, the resident WCW historian. Outside of probably Corey, who was on the show as well, who did a great job. All of us, I felt, really brought a lot to the table. The business side of it from Drew and Ellis, and myself and Corey. Really, Corey was at Starrcade 97, 98, 99, and 2000 in the MCI Center, which is really cool. I didn't even know that, which, to be honest, there's someone I'd like to get for the SIP series, so I think that's something I'm going to potentially get him for down the line. We'll see. Maybe for an anniversary of a show or something. But whenever the time is right, that's when I'll do it. But Final Bell Media, those guys, they asked me on. We discussed the doc and just, the historical side, the business side of maybe what did it, who's to blame, and a lot more, honestly. And I'm looking forward to parts 2, 3, and 4 in the upcoming weeks. So check out on Twitter at Final Bell Media, and you can also go to youtube.com/ at Final Bell Media to check out everything that they've got going on. And you never know, I might be popping in or out every now and again to Final Bell Media to throw out the straws, give some analysis, give some insight into my thoughts in pro wrestling. But like I said, with WCW, in my real life, I don't really know anybody outside of probably my dad that actually watched WCW, as it happened in the 90s. We watched Nitro and we taped Raw. That's how it was. My dad grew up with Georgia Championship Wrestling, and then it turned, he would watch that, and then NWA, of course, Saturdays at 6:05. And then WCW, I was at the Nitro where Kevin Nash debuted June 10th, 96. So all those interesting pieces of my fandom, and that's how it all kind of came together as a wrestling fan. So once again, shout out to Final Bell Media. I'm looking forward to branching out with the Juice Box umbrella with a couple of the guys that I will give names to and discuss who they are in the future once everything is a little bit more nailed down. But it's all in the works. The wheels are moving. The wheels are in motion. And looking forward to just getting more content, branching out, and seeing what else we can give to everybody out there in the pro wrestling world here with the Juice Box. So with all of that out of the way, although that was fun to finally get through some of this stuff, I've been working with a lot of different people here and getting things set up, getting ideas worked on, and just busy, to lack of a better term. So to kind of start getting these things, like I said, wheels in motion, is nice to put forth out there. But let's get to the week that was in pro wrestling. Again, not too much happening. Overall, like I said, we're kind of in the middle. We're getting amped up for the upcoming PLEs and pay-per-views coming up here. And I will go over such cards as we near them. But let's start with AEW. AEW, we finally got the return of the one, the only, MJF, who, quite frankly, pretty much eviscerated every single high-level talent on the AEW roster, including Swerve, Will Ospreay, Okada. No one is safe from MJF, and the locker room is absolutely on notice. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got going on. It seems like Roosh is the guy where we will get a match first for MJF in this return, as it were. And, I mean, we are at a point, and I do think we'll touch on it in the Ask Juice segment, but I mean, right now, it's going to be very interesting to see where the world title is placed in regards to Wembley. At Forbidden Door, we've got the world title on the line, and the guy who I think could just win this thing outright is already a champion. And I've stated it before, WCW, June 1994, right before Hulk Hogan came in, the International World Champion Sting and the WCW Champion Ric Flair had a unification title match at Clash of the Champions. Dare I say they run that back, where if Will Ospreay were to win the AEW World title from Swerve, maybe we could get the, similar type of thing going on, and we have a unification to get, I hate saying that like that, but to get rid of a title that honestly is just not needed right now. I know it would kind of be lame if the international title was just automatically eliminated, unified, whatever, but they already have the Continental title. This is the problem. There's too many titles. It's been an issue and a discourse among AEW fans and fans that are honestly more or less just critical of AEW. I wouldn't even call it nitpicking of something that's happening. I would just say that it's clear with the Ring of Honor titles on TV, the AEW titles, the Trios titles, just belts. It worked for Kenny Omega, when he was the belt collector, but you can't just do that with everybody. So I get what some of those fans are really saying, but I don't know. With MJF, he closed out his promo, probably going to wrestle some random guy from Mexico or Japan. Get your tickets today, as he will be in his hometown of Long Island for the Forbidden Door show. And I'm sure the fans will be unglued for MJF. Now, whoever he faces again remains to be seen. I don't see why Roosh couldn't be that guy. We had a fatal 4-way with the winner taking on Will Ospreay for the international title next week, which, does that lay claim to maybe we get a title change for some reason? But ultimately, we did get Rey Fenix as the winner of the 4-way against Jay Lethal, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly. It looks like we're going to get maybe one of the best TV matches of the year with Ospreay and Rey Fenix. But I don't know if a title change is truly on the horizon, purely because of they don't want to unify the titles, like I said. I just don't know. It's so easy to be like, oh, well, what are they thinking? And no one knows. And generally, I think that's a good thing, to not know what is being planned or what have you. But it is difficult when you get a story like this, when the argument has been going on, as soon as it was announced that it's Swerve versus Ospreay. Is it too soon for Ospreay to win this? Is it too soon for Swerve to lose it? Both guys need to win this, or rather, both guys can't lose this match, where quote-unquote AEW and Tony Khan are booking themselves into a corner. It's kind of tough to see where it's going to go without assuming everybody's going to get pissed one way or the other, whether now, again, the other option is some sort of a messy finish. Look, if Will Ospreay doesn't lose the international title and goes on to face Swerve, and the match goes off without a hitch, and there is a clean winner, people are gonna be upset one way or the other. If there's some sort, if everything goes to plan and he's still international champion and he goes against Swerve, and there's some sort of DQ finish, the fans will be pissed. It's AEW. Not many non-finishes or clean pins, submissions, knockouts, what have you. It just doesn't happen. So AEW kind of backed themselves into a corner and have to try to get out of that corner by walking on a tightrope. That's the best way I could describe it. But who knows what they've got planned. We will discuss more about Forbidden Door in the weeks leading up to it. I believe 3 weeks away. This is just a little note, and I know this could be a whole other episode, but Jay Lethal, apparently, as I did some research for this, he's in this match where you have a chance to have you could be number one contender for the international title. The last match that Jay Lethal won, get ready for it, October 10th, 2023. The last time Jay Lethal won a match on AEW TV, and yet somehow, someway, by hook or by crook, Jay Lethal was in a contenders match in June of 2024. That is where a disconnect can start to, piss off some fans. How is this? Look, it's not that Jay Lethal doesn't deserve a shot in the regards of, great wrestler, what have you, but to make sense of it all, or to have this rankings, quote-unquote, system, does it matter if Jay Lethal is just going to waltz in, up, here you go? What did he do to earn that? And look, no one is saying that same type of argument for WWE, but WWE doesn't generally have a rankings or like a definitive, this is the number one contender based on these stats that we gave you because they earned it. It's, all right, one guy for a number one contenders match against another guy. That's just how it's decided. It's more or less based on momentum. If a guy gets a couple wins in a row, maybe he's earned a shot. It's kind of loose. It's kind of just out in the air. And when you really try to be, we're doing the rankings, we're doing this, and they matter, and you got to win to really keep up the pace. But this guy hasn't won a match on TV since October 10th, 2023. But he gets a shot. So I'd hate to see if Jay Lethal won the match. That'd have been something. Seems that Jack Perry, regardless of what's going on, could end up as TNT champion. However, Brian Cage loses his match against Mark Briscoe, and we now get Mark Briscoe in the ladder match for the vacant AEW TNT title. Already in the match, Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe now, and I would wager Jack Perry will probably be involved at some point. We'll see. We shall see. We had a BCC versus Team CMLL match. The returning Wheeler Yuta, which was nice to see. Nice to see him back. BCC gets the win. You got to follow up that, great return. Wheeler's back. All right, let's give him something. Forbidden Door is not a traditional AEW pay-per-view. This is your, I hate to say just dream match card, because we do have, Swerve and Ospreay and the ladder match. So for the TNT title, so those are going to be pretty important in regards to, stories week to week on AEW. But even Toni Storm, her match is going to be against Mina Shirakawa, who is in Stardom. So I don't foresee her winning the title. You also have Mercedes Moné defending, and it's a winner-take-all match. AEW TBS title, New Japan Strong Women's title, Stephanie Vacour. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, please let me know. That would really that would help in my pronunciations going forward. But out of nowhere, that match is happening, which, again, it was kind of hinted at already, where Monet got interrupted by Stephanie, and it seems like the match is going to happen, and boom, they announce it. So those are kind of, the women's matches are more or less dream matches. Toni Storm has a little bit of a story in hers, with Mariah May kind of being in between Mina and Timeless Toni Storm. You know, some women get all the luck, but outside of that, not much story involved there. What else? We also had Chris Jericho doing a little bit more with the learning tree. I'm not sure if there's one person that loves the learning tree. However, there is someone in Wrestling Nation that does love the learning tree. Lucas, how dare you? You son of a bitch. But everybody else seems to hate it. I mean, Donnie hates it. Josh Cross says Chris Jericho will have another nickname in 6 months. Here's the thing. It is funny, but again, why is it on TV every week? Why could Chris Jericho just take a month off and come back with this same gimmick and it be funny and it work? Because here's my problem, and it's the same, Josh kind of mentioned it. Once the learning tree thing is done, what type of time in between that ending and Jericho's new venture beginning will there be, if any at all? Will there be any time? Will he just launch into something new? Who knows? And again, the learning tree thing is fine if something comes from it. If the payoff is strong, if it puts over somebody else that's not the wily, young upstart Chris Jericho. If it's somebody else, that would be nice. But you just don't know. So, I mean, it's good. Brian Keith is an interesting character. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with him outside of this learning tree thing, because I think he's got a lot of upside. Speaking of Mariah May, who has the best job in AEW right now, she tapped out to Saraya, which was an interesting move. But Saraya, I believe, she was brought back into pro wrestling and here in AEW for a reason, to truly, gain some confidence in her career again, to be a strong women's wrestler again. And it just hasn't worked to this point outside of, maybe Wembley last year. So it'd be nice to see Saraya maybe put up more wins and take on Mercedes Moné. What is that? Why couldn't that happen? There's plenty of different opportunities here. Have Saraya take on Toni Storm. There's a lot there. And again, I'm not going to even... I've gone over the list of women that are not involved in week-to-week storylines with AEW. I mean, Chris Statlander's on her way as well, so that's nice to see. But plenty that I would say are on the bench for no good reason, that I'm aware of. But main event, Swerve Strickland defending the world title against Roderick Strong. For what reason? Who knows? It's just, I don't know. Why is this match a main event? If you ask, here's the thing. Okay, in WWE, I couldn't say the same question because the fan base is more broad. A lot of younger viewers that may or may not be aware of kayfabe or whatever. If you ask the majority of AEW fans, Swerve Strickland, Roderick Strong, AEW World Title, and in the distance at Forbidden Door is Swerve versus Ospreay for the World Title, where if Roderick Strong beats Swerve Strickland, it would be Roderick Strong versus Will Ospreay for the AEW title. 99% of those AEW fans would say, oh, well, it's pretty obvious that Swerve is going to retain the title. There's no way, one, there's no way he loses it so quickly. Two, there's no way he loses it and then, what, is he going to get it back? Are they going to do a flip-flop? Is it WWF 1999? Even more so, this match happening, if you know that it's such a clean-cut outcome, why have it? Even the Eliminator matches, Swerve has to lose for the Eliminator to get the following title shot. You're going to have the champion lose so quickly? Maybe if it's in a underhanded or cheap way, and then you can make it a triple threat match at some point, but it's annoying, as easy as I can say it. Swerve versus Roderick Strong, world title on the line. I know exactly who's winning this match. So why is it going to happen? There is zero chance that Roderick Strong was going to win this match. So why is the match happening? Of course, Roderick Strong is one of the best workers in the company. Of course. You got to make Swerve look strong. He's got to stay strong, wrestling the best wrestlers. Where the best, or Tony Storm likes to say, where the breast wrestle. But you're selling this point of the best wrestlers are here. He's a champion that really wants to be a fighting champion. Yet this is an obvious match where he's going to win. I can suspend my disbelief and still tell you without a shadow of a doubt that Swerve was going to win this match. And it's just frustrating because I don't think Swerve needs to defend the title every week or in these crazy matches, these Eliminator matches, what have you, to have his title reign be successful. Especially when you have a match announced in the future. It's too obvious. So I just had a problem with that. So it is what it is. But Swerve gets the win. Of course. Bryan Danielson, though, this is something, and we will discuss a little bit in Ask Juice to close the show. But before the main event, Danielson did cut a promo saying that his last chance to fight for the AEW title will be by winning the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament, which the winners of those tournaments will get a title shot. I believe, is it at Wembley? I'm not actually sure. I actually want to look that up real quick. Make sure that I have that all set here. Because I feel as if, let's see, August 25th. Yes, so All In will have the winners of the Owen Hart match, like the tournaments, have the world title matches at All In. So conceivably, you could get Ospreay, Danielson, Either way, what I'm saying here is Danielson mentions this. He's going to enter the tournament. And he does mention his words. This might be my last shot, but it's going to be the best shot I've had in my entire career. He reiterated that this is his final year as a full-time pro wrestler, which doesn't mean he's going to retire up, one and done. I'm sure as long as he's able, capable, and healthy enough, I think Bryan Danielson will absolutely work more dream matches as time goes on. Even as not a full-time wrestler, I think that there's just too much pride for him to want to finish out how he wants to. However, in storyline here with the Owen Hart, I think Danielson's a clear favorite to win and get one more chance at the AEW title. I think it'd be cool for him to win the world title one more time. And then whenever he loses it, maybe that's just it. So I think that would actually, you know what? Did I just stumble into some interesting fantasy booking here on the Juice Box? Because I've done that before and it's failed miserably. Shout out to you, Damian Priest, for never cashing in the Money in the Bank. What if Bryan Danielson wins the Owen Hart Memorial, wins the world title at All In, and states, whenever I lose the AEW world title, I will retire from professional wrestling for good. I think that would make every single match incredibly important. Hell, you could have title matches on Dynamite without having a planned match in the future. Even so, because you could swap them out and say, oh, look, Danielson had his moment, but he's going to lose it on pay-per-view probably. But imagine TV where you get like a Danielson versus, look, they're not going to do it. Danielson Moxley. What if they had that happen potentially? Or a Danielson Omega at, a Grand Slam. Whether they run that back, but it's for the title. And if Danielson loses, he's done, but he wins. There's a lot of different avenues they could go for if that's something that they wanted to tackle. But who really knows? The interpromotional crossover stuff is cool for Forbidden Door, I feel. Like I said, though, it's going to be tough to really get a lot of story-based work from the rest of the card, but we'll see what they come up with. So I would say, look, MJF probably going to have a match with Roosh. He's got 3 other guys he mentioned that I'm sure he'll be involved with. Tony Storm, of course, has a huge match, but I'm feeling that a Saraya match is down the line. It's interesting to see what Christian and the Patriarchy could be doing with the EVPs, especially considering Jack Perry's relationship with Killswitch and Christian. Bryan Danielson's one final moment and last shot. I just think a lot of stuff is on its way, but we will see how Forbidden Door shapes up and turns out for me to really give my full opinion on that. But I'm looking forward to the show. I don't buy every AEW pay-per-view. I think, like last year, I didn't. What did I not? I think I bought All In and All Out. I didn't buy Wrestle Dream or Full Gear. I think I want to say I was busy those nights. But I bought Revolution, I bought Dynasty, and I bought Double or Nothing. And I probably will buy Forbidden Door All In and All Out again. So, hey, I have no problem shelling out for these AEW shows. They are always the best. They are by far the most guarantee. It's a guarantee of, 3.5 to the detriment of AEW, maybe 4.5 hours of pro wrestling. But it's just really cool to see that each pay-per-view, no matter how the TV week to week is, the pay-per-views really show up and show out. So pretty cool stuff there. Let's get into some WWE, and a little bit before we turn into Ask Juice, I'll run down a little bit of the Clash of the Castle card. Like I said, next week, hopefully, well, either way, there will be a prediction show for the Clash of the Castle PLE. Who knows if I will have a guest on or not? We will find out. Either way, it will be a happening, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say. Before we dive into that, I want to touch on something from last week. The AJ Styles segment on SmackDown last week. A pastel suit, some backstage 2 suites from Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. He had Cody Rhodes come out, and it was almost like, this might be the end of the road for me. I just don't know. I knew it was going to happen. Everybody else, I feel like, knew it was going to happen. Damn it, it was very similar to Mark Henry, although this was almost more... I had a feeling they were going to run back AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, but this is the vehicle that they used to get there, so I cannot fault them for that. Fake retirement. AJ Styles beats up Cody Rhodes, hits the Styles Clash on the floor, and we are off to the races. I assume tonight we find out for sure that it is Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles 2 in Scotland for Clash at the Castle for the WWE Undisputed Championship. I was going to say Universal, but I don't believe they call it the Universal anymore. So that should be the match that we get at CATC. COTC was Clash of the Champions. That's where my mind's at. I'm still on a WCW high from the stream that we did the other night. But Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser, or Ludwig Kaiser, as Samantha Irvin likes to say, this was a knockdown, drag-out, barroom pier sixer. And Ludwig Kaiser gets the win, which is pretty big for him to get that victory over a future Hall of Famer in Sheamus. Simple match, but they beat the tar out of each other, and I felt that Ludwig getting the win really helps going forward. And it's going to be interesting to see if Ludwig Kaiser gets maybe a little push here. If Gunther potentially wins a world title in down the line, does that mean he gets a feud with Kaiser if Kaiser turns? We shall see. Finn Balor defeated Dragon Lee. We got to talk about it. Liv Morgan, Dom Mysterio, Rhea Ripley is on the shelf right now, but I'm sure mommy is pissed watching Raw each week. The kiss heard round the world, but not necessarily seen by everybody because USA went off the air at 11 o'clock sharp. We had the kiss from Liv Morgan to Dom Mysterio. I say kiss too because Dom was not having it. Whether he doesn't want mommy to think that he's really invested or he's not really invested and he really is still with mommy remains to be seen. But we all know what Liv Morgan's trying to do, and that is create dissension within the Judgment Day, and damn, she did it again. A little bit of a new look for Liv Morgan as she is the current WWE Women's World Champion, and she kind of toys with Dom's emotions again, kind of makes him break and smile a little bit before Finn Balor gets in the way. Backstage, Damian Priest is saying, hey, I hope you make it right with Rhea, and Dom's like, look, I got it. It's all good. I got it. I don't believe that for a minute. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I don't know if they're going to run it back exactly like this, but give me a ladder match for the custody of Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam in Cleveland. Wouldn't that be amazing? How many years to, what was that, 2005? So almost 20 years later, Dom is being fought for in a ladder match, except it's by two women. How fascinating is that? I don't know if Rhea will be ready by then, so we'll see. We had Alpha Academy coming out, Sami Zayn coming out, telling, look, Otis, Akira Tozawa, Maxine Dupree, you gotta stand up for yourself. I've been in this spot, Sami Zayn referring to himself in the bloodline, Gable comes out. It's a ruse the whole time. Gable beats up Sami Zayn. Zayn gives Gable a title shot, and we're going to get that match. But as this happens, Maxine begs Gable to stop. Otis got in the way of this, interaction between Maxine and Gable. And the pop that hit when Otis stepped in front of Gable, even though he ended up still, hitting a suplex on Sami Zayn, the pop that he had was insane. And when we get the inevitable Otis on purpose, costing Chad Gable the match and turning on Gable, as it were, even though, Otis is the ultimate babyface in this entire situation, I think, and if it happens at Clash of the Castle, the crowd is going to go unhinged, unglued, roof will come off, Road Warrior pop, whatever you want to say. I think that's something that's going to happen very, very soon. So, oh man, cannot wait for that. So that match is set. I will talk about those three matches here before we get to Ask Juice. Braun Breaker, Ricochet. This was a great little match. Braun Breaker Ricochet is sitting on the top rope, top turnbuckle. Braun Breaker leaps to the top rope, clean, does a little like double finger point to the sky, and then all within one fluid motion hits a Frankensteiner off the top rope with the Frankensteiner, and then hits him with a spear to win the match. Braun Breaker is an absolute mammoth of a man, a beast, a specimen. I hope maybe he wins Money in the Bank and just cashes it. It just wins. I think they know. I think Braun Breaker's on the cusp of something here. And I don't want to say it's Goldberg-esque, but it's not that he's winning quick, but how he's winning is so definitive against guys that have had some history and some title wins. Ricochet was the last IC champion before Gunther took it and held it for 666 days. So Braun Breaker, I could easily see being Money in the Bank winner, calling his shot even, and just saying, I want this title match. Let me have it, and just I'm winning, and just doing it. And maybe hot-shotting Braun Breaker, the summer of Breaker. But I don't know if that's what they want to do yet. We got a lot of time to see what Braun Breaker has in his tank. But what a performance by Braun Breaker. He's got the best parts of Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner with a little bit of Goldberg thrown in. He's just an absolute specimen. That's the best way I can put it. Braun Strowman took out Carlito. This is pretty much nothing. Looking forward to seeing if Strowman gets a hold of JD McDonough at some point. Maybe a cage match where no one can interfere. Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair win by DQ. Potentially a triple threat match down the line for those titles. The New Day lose to AOP, and Karrion Kross still just kind of turning the screws to Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. Someone, I think, is going to turn, and that is going to be quite the scene if that truly happens. Damian Priest defeats Rey Mysterio in the main event, which was a solid little match. But, of course, after the match, Drew McIntyre hits the Future Shock DDT and picks up the world title to look at it. Almost longer than he held it, which was 5 minutes. And it's wild, man. Priest, McIntyre, the CM Punk of it all, where he's really been quiet now, on screen. I think he'll be in Scotland though, and it's gonna be something. Right now the card is Sami Zayn defending the Intercontinental title against Chad Gable, where I think, we'll get the predictions next week, but I think Otis is going to really, make a name for himself at that show. Bayley defends her women's championship against Piper Niven, which should be quite the match, as Piper Niven is from Scotland. So maybe she gets the world title here in her home country. And then Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, world heavyweight title. The crowd's going to be unhinged for this one, and I've seen where maybe CM Punk tries to cost Drew McIntyre, but it backfires. Drew McIntyre wins the title, and even though he's the heel, this is his Money in the Bank 2011 moment. Blows a kiss to Punk, a la Punk in Money in the Bank 2011. Leaves through the crowd as champion. Great moment, but then of course he's back to being a heel on Raw, and we're off to the races for Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, etc., etc. So, pretty interesting looking card thus far. Nothing too crazy set in stone. Just 3 matches on that show. 4 matches on Forbidden Doors set up already. But that was the week that was. Let's tap into a little Ask Juice before we close down this week's episode and get ready for next week's PLE prediction show for Clash at the Castle. Of course, dropped by Wrestling Nation, trying to get some Ask Juice, and we've got a few here. What is the prediction on what the World Heavyweight title picture will look like through SummerSlam? Feuds, matches, and angles we'll be getting over the next few months. I think it's any combination of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. I think Braun Breaker is an immense wild card. I think Money in the Bank is a huge show in the SummerSlam realm. In looking at SummerSlam and how it's going to play out, I think Money in the Bank, which is the reason it's there. The Money in the Bank placement for SummerSlam is the Royal Rumble WrestleMania placement. It's the show practically right before. I know that Chamber is Elimination Chambers before WrestleMania, of course, but to me, when you have Royal Rumble right before, a month or two before WrestleMania, you get your WrestleMania matches from Rumble. You might get some SummerSlam matches or some potential SummerSlam matches with Money in the Bank. So I think that is where we're at for the World Heavyweight title with Punk, McIntyre, maybe Damian Priest, although I think by SummerSlam, Priest, as long as he's not champion, probably still has a match with Finn Balor. I think the Judgment Day will probably kind of crumble there. Maybe that happens. Maybe Finn Balor costs Priest the match at Clash of the Castle. I don't really know. But outside of those guys, and again, maybe Braun Breaker as a potential wild card, that's what I see, barring any injuries to any of those guys or something unforeseen or talent we don't know about that maybe being involved here. Who's on the Mount Rushmore of Pittsburgh sports broadcasters, commentators, writers, journalists, columnists? I mean, it's a loaded question. If I had to just pick quickly, oh man, Stan Savern, Bob Pompiani, oh man, Mike Lang, and I don't want to say Myron Cope, but I mean, that's a voice that, you just double yoy, it's legendary. So I'll say Myron Cope, even though I don't know, he's not really a traditional broadcaster, commentator, what have you. Of course, this is a Mark Madden fan club in Wrestling Nation to an extent. I know some people, Matt Presto, not a fan, but neither here nor there. Mark Madden is certainly someone that's pretty solid in the realm of broadcasting journalism throughout the last 25 years in Pittsburgh sports. But I mean, yeah, Mike Lang, Stan Savern, Bob Pompiani, and I'd say Myron Cope, although you got Bill Hillgrove as well, Lanny Fratteri. I like Greg Brown for the Pirates. There's a lot of solid guys out there for just broadcasting, so it's kind of tough. But the first four I mentioned, I'll kind of stick with that. Should Ospreay win the AEW World Title at Forbidden Door or All In, and why? Kind of detailed that earlier. I wouldn't mind if Ospreay did win here at Forbidden Door and then lost to Danielson at Wembley to then get maybe one final run with the title for Danielson. Although ideally you would have Ospreay not win until All In, but with the Owen Hart thing happening, I think Ospreay is going to walk in as champion. Otherwise, do you see him losing at Forbidden Door? No. We'll get to the predictions in a couple weeks, but that's going to be one of the tougher matches to predict. Although, right now, I think Ospreay is going to beat Swerve Strickland. And yeah, so what's the potential prediction for Danielson's role at All In? Maybe his last big match. I think that's where it is. I think that's where maybe he wins the title if he wins the Owen Hart. If he doesn't win the Owen Hart, I can see him having like a... Man, I mean, he could have a match against Kenny. He could have a match against maybe Mox, maybe Okada. There's a lot of potential huge matches there with Danielson if he's not in the world title picture, but I do think he will be in the world title picture when it's all said and done. And then this is a fun one for Josh Eisenberg out there. Mavs or Celtics, and in how many games? Although this is kind of unfair considering the Celtics are up 1-0 thus far, my initial prediction, I do think the Celtics are a better team than the Mavericks, but I have a feeling that this goes 6, potentially 7 games. Oh, boy. Man. Ultimately, I want to see the Mavericks win, but I ultimately think the Celtics win the series. So, sorry, Josh. Hopefully, hopefully that doesn't mean that you won't come back on for future shows. But I want the Mavs to win. I used to play as the Mavericks on NBA Live 03 and 06. Love those old teams that they had with Dirk and oh man, I couldn't really. Let's see if I can pull up. There's one guy I want to make sure I get correct. But they had, oh man, Avery Johnson was the coach. Jason Terry. Man. Some of the guys on that team. Now, I'm going to go back to maybe 03 here. 02 rather. That's where, so Nick Van Exel, I knew. Steve Nash, of course. Rafe LaFrance, I was a huge Rafe guy. The big center. Michael Finley was also pretty good, I remember, as I would play NBA Live. So the 02-03 Mavs, man, it just doesn't get better than that. So it was really cool to play as them, and I was happy to see them finally win a title that they did in 2011. But, Luka, Kyrie, hell of a backcourt there. And I like Lively, but the Celtics, I mean, Al Horford is still got it. And Porzingis is healthy now, so I think the Celtics are going to win, but I think it could go 6 or 7 games. And if it goes 7 games, anything could happen, of course. However, Jason Tatum does have the most points ever in a game 7, so that is also a not great factor. But I'd like to see the Mavs win, but I do think that the Celtics will win. That has been Ask Juice, and that has been the Juice Box this week. A little bit later of a release on Friday, as I normally have it recorded and uploaded early Friday morning. But like I said, a lot of busy stuff going on this week in regards to this show. Some other projects I'm working on within the Juice Box umbrella, among other things going on. So it's nice to finally get this down, recorded, and out to you guys to enjoy here on a Friday night. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of the Juice Box. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. You can find the Juice Box podcast on Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen to it on those last two, Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, via iTunes, drop a 5-star rating, maybe write a review. It only takes a minute or two. It really helps the show grow. And at Juicy Steen on YouTube. The RSS feed will be up there. Every single week you'll find this show if you like listening to podcasts on YouTube. I will also plug at Final Bell Media. Check out the Who Killed WCW post-show analysis. Myself, Drew McIntyre, Ellis, and Corey. Every single week, we're going to be doing that 4 straight weeks in a row. That's where you can find me outside of the Juice Box. I got a couple of Sip Series things lined up. We got a future, umbrella show coming up. A different flavor to Triple Threat Theater in the future. A lot of stuff in the hopper. Big hopper. So, I'm Juice Springsteen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And I'll catch you guys next week with the PLE prediction show for Clash at the Castle Glasgow. Right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.